Good morning, folks. Happy Sunday. It is week 15's edition of the Football Diehards Sunday live show. I am Armando Marsal. With me, as always, is Bobby Gomes. My man, you were in a different state at a wedding yesterday, and you are back home today. How is it going?
It's going well. Great weddings. My buddy got married. Just back here to talk some football.
Nice, man. Yeah, it's definitely a weird week as far as fantasy is concerned. Lots of low totals here, and then some pretty significant news, which I think will maybe affect roster construction this week. It looks like LaShawn McCoy will not play. Chris Ivory is listed as doubtful, which would put Marcus Murphy, who's only 3,400 on DraftKings, as pretty much the running back for the Bills this weekend. And, they really don't have anyone else back there. So he's going to be on the field pretty much all game, or for at least the majority of the games. Well, how does that change the way you're approaching this day? Because obviously one of the things that was difficult to find this week was good value. I don't know if he's, a smash value, but when you're getting a running back that's going to be starting and getting, a ton of, opportunity at 3,400, you really have to think hard about that.
Yeah, no. So for his price tag, it's a great value, and pretty much on any other slate, I'd probably pivot down to try to get him in there. But I just don't know who to go up to. I don't think there's more a lot of high tier guys that are really going to set me apart from the field by rostering Marcus Murphy. So I don't think I'm really going there as of right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the issue as well. You only have a couple of high-priced guys this week in good spots, but I think what I've done is I've taken the balanced approach. I've really built a very balanced lineup this week. I think I've tried different builds, and that's kind of where I ended up with my favorite roster. So as I alluded to earlier or before we signed on, you and I were talking, and I'm not investing as much this weekend simply because I'm not excited about the slate. It's a very odd one for me. So again, we talk about this all the time where we adjust and we make changes and we let the slate pretty much dictate what we do. So this is one of those weeks where I really feel if you don't feel comfortable with your lineups or you don't feel, don't overdo it. Just, play what you feel comfortable with and move on. There's going to be another week next week. So kind of how I take it. Right now, it looks like this slate is, like you mentioned, it's not providing a ton of things. Who are some of the high price? And before we get to the game by game, who are some of the high price guys that you're kind of keying in on this week? Because it looks like Ezekiel Elliott is going to probably be the more popular one.
Yeah. Could you say that again? You went in and out. I'm sorry.
No, it looks like Ezekiel Elliott will probably be the guy that everyone wants to pay up for. Is he someone that you're, working to try to get in your lineups, or you're really not? Because I don't have a ton of Zeke Elliott this week. In fact, right now I have, at least in tournaments, I don't have any Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I think so. Prior to Odell being out, I was really high on Zeke, but I think with the usage shift and my cash game guy, I think I'm going to go with this Saquon as of right now. So.
All right, so before we jump in, we got a couple questions here. So it says, should I play Hooper, Westbrook, Stills, or Pettis? Only one. I like Pettis, but it is worth noting that he's questionable. But I do like Pettis over all those guys. You, Bobby?
Yeah, I'd probably go Pettis too.
All right, half-point PPR. I'm assuming Mark Ingram or Tariq Cohen. I'm going to go with Tariq Cohen.
Mark Ingram or Tariq Cohen. Yeah, I'm going to go Cohen as well.
All right, Aaron Jones or David Johnson. David Johnson for me.
Yeah, I think David Johnson's definitely the play. The Chicago Bears defense has given up 3 rushing touchdowns all season to the running back position. So you probably want to go deep.
Yeah. Robert Woods or Zach Ertz. This one's a tough one for me, but I'll go Woods. I'm gonna go Woods here.
Yeah, I'm really high on Brandon Cooks in that game, especially on that Yahoo tournament, the 10 entry max. That's going to have overlay. You guys should all hop on that one. Um, I like Zach Ertz between Robert Woods, and I'm running a lot of my lineups there on back with the Zach Ertz.
All right. We have Wilson or Gus Edwards or Tevin Coleman. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Gus Edwards here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Tev. I know Gus Edwards is in a great spot. Nervous about Dixon. I think Tevin's gonna have a pretty good week this week. I know he's burned everyone all year. I just think in this spot, like he should do well. Hopefully they'll be playing with the lead. I'm gonna go Tevin.
Hilton or Edelman?
Edelman without question for me, I think.
100% as well for me. I don't even think it's that close. Let me see here. Who should I start the flex? Stafford, Rosen, McCoy, or Cooper, or Amari Cooper. Typically, I like to take the quarterback in this situation, but I'm going to go with Amari Cooper.
Yeah, so Stafford, Rosen, or Amari Cooper.
Or LeSean McCoy, but he's not playing. So, but I just pretty much like read what he said. LeSean McCoy's not playing, so.
Oh yeah,
essentially Stafford, Rosen, or Cooper.
I go Cooper.
Yeah, I just don't like the quarterbacks there. Hilton, Boyd, or DJ Moore, PPR flex. I'm gonna go with Tyler Boyd here.
Yeah, I'm high on Tyler Boyd.
All right, we already got to that one. Wilson, Cam, or Carr. Wow, this one's very close. I'm gonna go Wilson here. I'm assuming price is not dependent because they're totally off when it comes to prices. So I'm gonna go Wilson, but Carr's a very close second. I like Carr a lot this week.
Yeah, I like Carr too, but I'm gonna go Wilson.
Yeah. Here you go. I think I know where you're going here. Vernon Davis or is Uzoma.
Big Vern.
I knew that. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Uzoma here. It's a really good matchup.
The greatest athlete of all time in the NFL.
I know. Trust me. I want it to be. I want another Vernon Davis question because I do want to say that I do want to say him, but not there. Very close.
Yeah,
I do like.
You like DFS. You don't like him in season long.
Correct. Cam or Trubisky? I'm gonna go with Trubisky, man.
Yeah, Mitchell's in a good spot in this Green Bay game.
Yeah. Flex, Kittle or James White? James White for me. Kind of like that spot for him.
James White for me too. James White week.
Yeah. All right. Need two here. Calvin Ridley, Tevin Coleman, Josh Reynolds, Hilton, or Pettis. And this is PPR. I'm going to go with Hilton and Pettis.
Can you read those back?
Yep. Calvin Ridley, Tevin Coleman, Reynolds, Hilton, and Pettis.
I think Reynolds is going to get in the end zone this week. So I'm going to go Reynolds. And Tevin.
I like Reynolds a lot too. Like Reynolds was that other guy that I would be considering there. And if I play Reynolds, it'll be over Pettis.
I don't even think Hilton's going to play. Is he going to play?
That's the thing. Like it looks like he's on track to play, and that's why right now I'm going by with the assumption that he's going to play because it was reported at 9:20 today. It's like that he has a good shot. He obviously it's not official yet, but I'm going with the he's going to play right now because that's what he's on track to play. Hilton, Josh Gordon, or James White need two wide receiver and a flex PPR. So I'm assuming you need one wide receiver and one flex. I'm gonna go with James White for sure, and then I'm gonna go with Hilton over Gordon. I think they're both good. I think Gordon's in a good spot, but the usage has just hasn't been what I would like now with Gronk back. So I'm gonna go with Hilton and James White, but it's very close there.
I'm gonna go with James White and Gordon.
Yeah, it's very close for me, man. Dalvin Cook or Devin all right, let me see. Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry here. Cook, pretty easy for me.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook 100% of the time with that question.
Gus Edwards or I'm assuming Dixon here with the Ravens. I'm gonna go with Edwards.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Edwards too. I don't know really what to do with that backfield in DFS.
I'm staying away from it. I think I'm staying away from it today. I don't mind Edwards. I think it's a good matchup. If I do, have exposure to that game, it'll probably just be Lamar Jackson, which we'll get to now when we get to the game by game. Half point PPR, Marcus Murphy or Doug Martin. I'm gonna go with Doug Martin here. It's a good matchup. I know Murphy is probably gonna get the touches and gonna be on the field a lot, but I just don't know what to expect from him. So I like Doug Martin here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I never say this, but I'm gonna go Dougie Martin.
I know, man. It's not a comfortable feeling, but we have to answer these questions, man. It's really not a comfortable feeling. Cousins or Newton? Cousins for me.
Yeah, Cousins at home. Get it. Wait, you say Cousins or Newton?
Yeah.
So this is going to be a pretty off-topic question, but I only play DFS. I don't think Newton's on the main slate.
No, it's probably this. I'm assuming this is just a standard based on some. Most of the question appears to be, huh?
Who's Newton playing?
He's playing the Saints.
He's hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, he's hurt.
He's dealing with that shoulder injury. I think that's limiting him what he really can do here. So that's kind of what concerns me here.
Yeah, but maybe he runs more.
Excuse me.
I just think Cousins has that game script where if he doesn't have to throw and they want to get back to pounding the rock, you're probably better off going Newton.
Yeah, and that's good. That's a very good point. Huh?
Is that the Sunday night game?
I believe so.
Okay.
Nice showdown slate.
Yeah, I'm a little backed up, guys. Sorry about that.
Mark Ingram or Devontae Adams? I'm assuming. Oh wow, this to me is Devontae Adams. Pretty easy.
Yeah, Devontae. I like him a lot this week. I think he's in a good spot.
Rams or Ravens defense? I'm gonna go Ravens defense at home against the Bucs.
Oh yeah, I'm going Ravens D.
Hilton, Boyd, or DJ Moore in a flex? I'm gonna go Boyd.
Yeah, I love Boyd. I think DJ Moore is kind of in an interesting spot, getting PJ Williams.
He is
versus Saints, and he can run after the catch. You just said Newton's shoulder's kind of hurting him, so he might check down to the slot a little bit more. No pun intended.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
The Dallas defense or the Detroit defense? I like them both. I like them both. I like Dallas though. I know they have the tougher matchup. I think they're a better unit, and they can get to Andrew Luck. I think they're gonna give him trouble with their pass rush here.
I actually like both for like DFS purposes.
Me too.
I think they're both pretty interesting. I might go the Lions here.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's close for me. I think they're both fine. Robert Woods or Zach Ertz. We already talked about that one. Buffalo or Seattle defense. Give me Buffalo at home.
Buffalo or Seattle defense?
Yeah. Buffalo is at home against the Lions, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo. Seattle ran, right?
Seattle's on the road against the Niners, so just FYI. I mean, it's not a tough matchup for them, but I'd just rather, take the home team here in a good
Back
match.
to that question where you take the same defenses in the same game. That game's definitely going under.
That what?
No, that Buffalo Detroit game's I think is going to go under.
Yeah. I think those are two perfectly fine defenses, Buffalo and Detroit. I think that going there, it's fine.
It's going to be
answer 1 point PPR. I need 2. Reynolds, Ridley, Coleman, Hilton, Pettis, Samuels. I think we already answered that one. Cook or Ebron? For me, it's Cook. Jared Cook here.
Well, since Ty is officially playing, I'm going Jared Cook. If he wasn't, I'd probably go Ebron.
Yeah, I mean, it's not official, but it looks like he's on track to play, from my understanding. That's what I read here earlier this morning. All right, that's it for the question, guys. And let's start this game by game here. The first game on the board, Bobby, this weekend here is, give me 1 second. Let's go back to it. Sorry, guys. And all right, guys. The first game on the board is one that Bobby likes. Green Bay at Chicago taking on the Bears. Bobby, you mentioned your love for the Packers this week. It's a 46.5 over-under. The Bears have a 25.75 implied team total. Packers have a 20.75 implied team total. Give me your thoughts on this game because you are far more bullish on it than I am.
Yeah, I really like this game for tournaments. Just looking at it, I think A-Rod, he isn't Jared Goff. Jared Goff's home road splits are absolutely ridiculous. And last week, he's played pretty awful in Chicago. And I think that A-Rod, I'm just going to rely on his talent, going to try to leverage other people's recency bias on the Chicago defense, which funnels to the pass. And they're going to funnel to the greatest quarterback in the league outside of, obviously, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And I think that I like Rodgers. I like stacking him with Cobb in the slot, who's got a great matchup. Chicago's starting corners out. So I think Cobb's very interesting at his price tag at 4,400. And then Devontae Adams, it doesn't matter who's covering him. So even if it's Kendall Fuller or whoever, Devontae Adams is going to be pretty heavily involved, and I like him a ton for tournaments. Don't really like any of the Green Bay running backs. Chicago's given up 3 rushing touchdowns all year to the running back position, so not really going to go there. You have some squeaky wheel narrative with Jimmy Graham at 3,800, just talking about how he wants to be more involved. So I think he's fine in tournaments. On the Chicago side, if I'm running any of those Green Bay stacks back, I'm looking at a guy like Tariq Cohen at 6,300. But the guy that kind of really sticks out to me, and I know he's questionable right now, but if he plays, I really like Allen Robinson at 5,500. I just think he's in a very good spot, especially if this game script flips and they're playing from behind. And then Taylor Gabriel at 4,200 is also someone who's going to be pretty highly targeted in DFS this week. So those are the guys. Trey Burton, if they get behind, if you think that Chicago's going to be playing from behind, then he's always an option. This is strictly like a tournament situation for me, this game, but I think it's a good way to kind of get off the New England Pitt game. So I don't mind rostering guys from this game, and hopefully like a total. It has a higher total than what's projected at 46. Oh, Trubisky is great as well.
Yeah, I right now the 51% of the bets are on the over here, so it looks like at least it's very close here. I think the betting. I like the Randall Cobb call. I talked about him on Thursday. And I think, the matchup obviously isn't ideal, but I really liked what I saw out of him last week, with the new coaching staff here. His role here is pretty solidified. And earlier in the year, he really, really had a huge game against the Bears defense here at, 9 catches, 142 yards, a touchdown. Not expecting him to, replicate that, but definitely has, the ability here out of the slot to do some damage. And it's, at the end of the day, it is Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, one of the better quarterbacks to play the game. So, I like him as a value play here in this spot. Tariq Cohen to me is very interesting. I really, really think that this is a good spot for him. Problem is, it's just based on how I'm creating my rosters this week. I'm just not fitting him in, but can't deny his role in this passing game, the floor he has because of that, and also the ceiling that he provides with his speed and his big play ability here. So like him here quite a bit. It's just a matter of not being able to fit him in. Any final thoughts before we move on to this next game?
No, we can hop right in the next game.
Lions and Buffalo taking on the Bills. This game has a 39.5 over under, 21 implied team total for the Bills, 18.5 implied team total for the Lions. As we alluded to at the beginning of the show, it appears that the Bills will have to run out Marcus Murphy, so 3,400. We talked a little bit about this here. It's it's a situation where he's going to get a ton of carries, and this is if Chris Ivory is officially ruled out, and he hasn't been, but he's doubtful at this time, guys. So it is worth noting. And like you mentioned, I think Murphy makes for an okay cash game play because you're going to be able to fit in your, Saquon Barkley or Zeke Elliott, depending on, who I know you're going with Barkley, but I'm just saying if someone else is going, Zeke, you can fit those guys in without really having to do much else to your lineup, not having to give up or sacrifice in other positions too much, I think. So if Marcus, Murphy gives it a go here, I think it's okay to roll him out in cash. I'm not excited about him. I'm not confident in him because we just don't know. But if he's basically the only running back out there for Buffalo this week, you really have to kind of, take the plunge at 3,400. I think not someone I'm making adjustments for in my tournament lineups at this time. I don't think that is necessary to do here. Aside from that, this is one of those games I really don't care for. We talked about the defenses being a good spot. I'm okay with rolling out either the Lions defense or even Buffalo's defense. I think the Bills are a little bit more expensive, so if I'm trying to save a couple dollars here, definitely Detroit in a good spot against the Bills. Josh Allen, look, I know what he's been doing. I see it. I just don't know if that's sustainable. What he's doing with his legs. I just over 99, I think it is, rushing yards in the last 3 games. It's just, to me, it's not sustainable. This is a good matchup. The Lions are bad against the pass, but I'm not going to go there this week. Any thoughts here on this game, Bobby?
Yeah, so the Lions are bad against the pass, but they've definitely been a lot better versus the run with Snacks Harrison in there. So, and the fact that they play zone, I think the last couple teams Buffalo played, it was pretty much they're getting a lot of man fronts, and then Josh Allen's able to get away, and the cornerbacks' backs return to him, so they're not really able to play. They're not really able to get back around to him. So I really don't like Josh Allen this week, and it's why I really kind of like the Lions. And a lot of people talking about Marcus Murphy, but I look to, if you're going to – there's no reason to go low at running back because you can't really go high anywhere else. It doesn't really afford you – there's not a ton of high-end talent on the slate to where you can find a value play that's going to let you get up to someone that you'd like to. So they're pretty much fades of guys in other spots. I think that on other slates, like a guy like LeGarrette Blount at 3,800 and correlating him with the Lions defense wouldn't be the worst play if you wanted to get low value, but I just don't think this is a slate. This is pretty much all I have for this game. So I don't know if you want to get a move on.
You really don't want to invest in, man, or not too much at least, I think. The next game, Tampa Bay in Baltimore taking on the Ravens, 46 over under here. Ravens have a very healthy implied team total, 27.25 here, and the Bucks have an 18.75 implied team total. 8.5 point favorites are the Ravens here, Bobby. Someone that we really didn't talk too much about on Thursday, and it's kind of growing on me this week. It's Lamar Jackson, man. At 5,900 here. I did mention that I liked him. I just didn't know who to pair him up with, or rolling him out naked. I think we did talk about that, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I'm gonna do that. I really like this spot for him. We know the Bucs issues in their defensive issues have been pretty obvious. They struggle against the run. They struggle against the pass. It's just a bad defense overall. Jackson has shown the ability to not only do it with his legs, but at times he can throw a pretty good pass here and there. So I like his upside here a ton. The only one concern I have with him, that's just my only one concern, is that if he does struggle, do they keep him out there, or do they bring in Joe Flacco? And that to me is a very strong concern here, because now they do have a healthy Flacco here. So what are your thoughts on this game, and your thoughts on Lamar Jackson?
I think Lamar Jackson's going to be the guy that I'm rostering on my early slate cash games at 5,900. I just think that he's in a pretty good spot here, and definitely has the high floor with his legs. An interesting tournament play, I think, in this game is a guy like John Brown at 4,400. And it's just for multi-entry or deep GBPs or stuff like that. To correlate him with Jackson, I think a lot of people are going to look away. And he's a guy who can always get deep. Jackson has the arm to kind of get the ball to him. So he's someone I'm interested in a little bit more than I probably like. For whatever reason, haven't heard many people talking him up. Don't think that he's going to be highly owned, and he can easily go for 20 DK points, if not more than that, if he catches a long bomb. They just don't throw it enough. That's pretty much the thing. So that's kind of what scares me. But like I said, it's strictly a tournament play, just because he's cheap and he's a high variance play for tournaments, I feel like. Hasn't caught a deep one in a couple weeks. So, since Jackson's been there. I don't know. I don't have much stats to back up this play. It's just pretty much a game dairy play.
To help you out here, I agree. I think if you're going to roster any receiver, it would be John Brown for a couple reasons. Number one, like you mentioned, his big playability is significant. We've seen him, turn a 20-yard, pass into a 60, 70-yard touchdown in the past. We know he has that kind of ability. And then when you look at the targets for these receivers, they've been all over the place, but at least in the last 3 weeks for him, it's been pretty consistent. It's 6, 4, 7. Whereas you got 4, 4, 6 for Crabtree, which is, not as consistent. You got Willie Snead at 7, 3, 0. So when you look at the numbers like that, it just looks like Brown is the one that's, more consistent. Now, he hasn't been doing well. He hasn't been efficient. In week 12, he caught 1 of 7 targets. In week 13, 0 of 4 targets. And last week, 2 of 6 targets. So the efficiency hasn't been there. But by the numbers, I think, like you mentioned, Brown is the guy you want to target out of this, receiving group here. And I agree with that. If you are going to pair him up with anyone, it would be Brown. Personally, I'm going to roll out Lamar Jackson by himself. I'm not going to stack him up with anyone. I really think that's the way to do it. Yeah. No, absolutely, because you're increasing your upside like that. Absolutely. And then on the Bucs side,
Tampa Bay is probably going to be playing. Problem is Baltimore is probably going to be playing with the lead, and there's not going to be much reason to throw. But with the chance that Tampa plays well for whatever reason and they have to throw, or I don't know, I just think it gives a guy like John Brown all of a sudden becomes in play. It's going to be I think that's why it's strictly a tournament play, because I think it might be an unlikely situation.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. That's why I'm interested in Gus Edwards, man. I just don't put him in. I right now I'm not constructing my lineup with running back this cheap. But I really do like Gus Edwards in this spot because they do play with a lead here. which is expected. He hasn't been efficient. He's not involved in the passing game, which does concern me. And I know we talked about this on Thursday, but he has 17, 23, 21, and 16 carries in the last 4 games. I believe it's 10 red zone touches in the last 3 games. And that's about 30% of the red zone work right there in that time frame. I think there's touchdown equity here. I think he's cheap. I think this is a good game script, a great matchup. When you look at the Bucs, since week 8, they have allowed over 80 rushing yards in every game, allowing over 100 rushing yards per game, and 5, 7, 8 touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns here since week 8. So definitely a defense that has been just torched by running backs. So at 4,400, to me, he draws a lot of my attention. Not a priority play for me, but someone that could basically fall into some of my lineups here. And it is expected to rain, so that is worth noting here. And then from the Bucs side, man, I really don't have anything. Usually this is an offense I like, but I really respect this Ravens defense a ton, and I just don't think this is a good game for this unit here.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the Bucs for you, or you're off as well?
Godwin, strictly game theory, messed it, kind of really porked a couple people last week who had him at high ownership, so he'd be the only one.
All right, on to this next game, Bobby. Arizona at Atlanta. Falcons have a 27 implied team total. The Cardinals have a 17 implied team total. This game has a 44 over/under. Atlanta's the biggest favorite on the board in the main slate at 10 points. This is a tricky situation because they have a healthy implied team total, and everything says if you're going to attack this Arizona Cardinals defense, it is with the run. They're really bad against opposing running backs here. I know you have love for Tevin Coleman this week. I personally can't get on board. It's a situation where it looks like they continue running a committee here. I know Coleman, in my opinion, is the more talented of the 2 backs there, but for some reason they just don't trust him getting the heavy workload. And he's a good pass catching back. So even in games where they're chasing points, he should be on the field, should be getting production in the passing game, and it's just not happening. So maybe you could talk me into some Coleman because I know you like him, and then break down the rest of this game if you have any other interest here.
Yeah, so Tevin at his price tag, if this was a week where, like I said, it's kind of the same thing that applies to LeGarrette. Obviously, Tevin's a much better running back, so you'd probably go his way. If there was a week I could kind of pay up at another position and get value that I really liked, I'd probably use a guy like Tevin, but I don't really see much reason to do that because I don't really like a ton of the higher end value. I think he's in a good spot. The majority of he's busted a ton, but they've been playing from behind, so that's why I think Ito Smith's gotten into these situations where he's seeing a ton of snaps. But at that price tag, I think he's a good play. I think they're going to be playing. They're 10-point home favorites. I don't mind Tevin Coleman this week, just point per dollar. I think he definitely should see a bigger workload, and he should be all right. As a roster, I just don't think he's a good pivot off Jalen Samuels. I'm going to pick Jalen Samuels 100% of the time. So what reason for there is for me to roster Tevin? Maybe if James Conner was playing and there was no Samuels value, I'd go Tevin maybe to in tournaments to kind of differentiate myself and do something else in another direction. But I don't know. I just like Samuels as the low-end value. I think he's the good chalk. You have to play him kind of like week 1 with James Conner, where we had to play James Conner in tournaments and all formats. So, yeah, that's pretty much it on Tevin. He's fine in season long, I think. Or a tournament pivot if you have some value that you like up top.
All right. I get it, and this does set up a good game script for the running backs here in Atlanta. On the other side, though, David Johnson to me is very interesting. We know how much this Falcons defense struggles against pass catching backs. And we saw what we know by now. Everyone knows what David Johnson can do in the passing game. Problem is just his usage and his role in the passing game has not been consistent at all. Even after the coaching changes, he returned that after the bye, 9 targets. So we got excited, and the following week, only 3 targets, and then following week after that, 3 targets and 2, and then last week 10 targets, but caught 8 of them for only 12 yards. Man, that to me is mind-boggling. I have interest in him still. I think he's an okay tournament play here. Not someone that I'm prioritizing, but definitely someone I think is a viable tournament option here. And Fitzgerald to me is a pretty interesting value, especially if they're going to be chasing points. We saw him get the targets last week. Again, didn't do much with them. No Christian Kirk now. So to me, at this price tag, 4,700, I'm very interested in here. He 9 targets last week. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get anywhere between 7 and 10, 11 targets here in a game that they should be chasing points. So I think he's an interesting, cheap receiver here in tournaments that you could utilize. Aside from that, I really have nothing else in this game, though, man.
Yeah, so speaking of David Johnson, I think Chad Williams is out along with Christian Kirk. I'm not really positive about that. I just think there's going to be – he's seen 10 targets last week. If he sees 10 targets versus Atlanta defense that's really struggled versus pass catching running backs, he's definitely in playing tournaments. And I think he's a good fade off a lot of these guys that were kind of like a Joe Mixon or I don't know. I just think that he's probably a better play than where his ownership has him at. So I'd definitely be overweight on DJ if multi-entering this week. And I like the Fitzgerald call too. He's going to be in the slot. This is where you attack Atlanta, is basically the slot receiver and the running back. So I don't hate it. Problem is, I want to run it back. I don't know. Tevin. I just said.
There you go. Listen, I'll be honest with you, man. A lot of the projections and a lot of the, they have Coleman as one of the best values on the slate, man. And I get it. Listen, I get it. I totally get it. I'm just concerned about his usage. If I knew he was going to get the usage, I think he'd be one of the best values on the slate by a good amount here. But I just don't know what to expect from the usage here. On to the next game, man. Oakland at Cincinnati. This game is interesting to me. 46 over/under. Raiders have a 21.5 implied team total. Bengals have a 24.5 implied team total here. I like Derek Carr a ton. I think this is a good match for him. He's been playing well as of late with at least 20 DraftKings points in each of the last 2 games. A nice completion percentage during that span. This is a good matchup for him, a good game environment. Bengals are a defense that does struggle here. I like him a ton this week, and I like Jared Cook on this same offense a ton as well. I think Cook is one of the top tight end plays on the board. Even at that price tag, I know it's not comfortable to pay up for him, but the usage, the volume has been there. When you look at the efficiency has been there. Everything. It's just they don't really have many pass catchers on this offense, so like him a ton. And then the Bengals do struggle against tight ends here, so I think it's a really good matchup for him. And then on the other side, Joe Mixon. A priority play for me, one of the top plays on the board, gets a really good matchup here. We know what he's capable of doing. And then when you look at his price tag, it just seems way too cheap for someone of his caliber and his talents in this situation. So love him this week. I think a phenomenal play here. And then Tyler Boyd, tough to ignore Tyler Boyd at 5,700. I know his production has been up and down with AJ Green off the field, but the usage and the targets have been there. And in a matchup like this one, I believe he's going to get Nick Nelson here. No, actually, they have him we're getting Marcus Gilchrist, but still a good matchup. 26% advantage rating. Gilchrist is an average corner per Pro Football Focus here. So despite not getting Nick Nelson, he is going to get still gets a good matchup here. So listen, I'm okay with him here at this spot, especially at 5,700. So that's what I have from this game, Bobby. Feel free to give your thoughts and what you have going on here, if you have anything different as well.
Yeah, I really like Tyler Boyd. I mean, we were playing like him at 4,500 pretty much every week earlier on in the season. He got up to being a 7K guy. He's now at 5,700. AJ Green's out. Oakland, tough versus they don't really get a lot of pressure, so should be time for Driscoll to get the ball downfield to Boyd, and Boyd plays a slot, so should be time in general for Boyd to get open. So I like him at 5,700. Mixon's a cash game play for a lot of people, but for me, I think I'm probably leaning Dalvin Cook just because how they want to get back to the run game, and it came down to Mixon and Dalvin Cook for me, and Mixon's 100% okay. I just thought Dalvin Cook was the better play. Just because I feel like he's in the better offense, and it just seemed like Dalvin Cook's definitely the better play for me. Outside of that, like on the Oakland side, I like Aitman, I like Jordy Nelson, I like David Carr. I think Jared Cook's in a great position. You can use stacks. A lot of people are going to actually stack this game in tournaments. Driscoll's in play at his price tag, especially with Driscoll has a very high floor. Like a lot of people are looking for the Josh Allen upside that we've kind of been getting, and I feel like that's attainable with a guy like Driscoll this week. I don't think you're going to get that from Josh Allen, but a guy like Driscoll who really uses his legs, he's someone I'd definitely be interested in tournaments. And even John Ross as a tournament play. Just crushed it pretty much in the preseason. Hasn't done much, but there is opportunity there with AJ Green out. Driscoll's going to have time to get the ball deep, so maybe Ross gets a step on someone. Obviously, one of the faster players in the league, if not the fastest player in the league. So I think he's in a great spot as well for tournament. It's all strictly tournaments except Mixon and Tyler Boyd. They're definitely cash game viable. And some people can make the case for Jared Cook as well in cash.
Yeah, I probably would stay away from Cook in cash. I'd rather just pay out for Gronk if you're going to go in that direction. But yeah, the usage has been there. I mean, the usage has been there, the efficiency. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Ross is an interesting tournament play, man. I think that's a good call there, without a doubt. All right, on to this next game, Bobby. We have the Titans in New York taking on the Giants. No Odell Beckham again for New York here. This game has a 43 over-under. The Titans are now 1-point favorites here. They actually opened up at 2.5-point dogs. They have a 22 implied team total. The Giants have a 21 implied team total. Give me your thoughts here, in this matchup. I know you said you're going to go Barkley over Elliott. So go ahead and start with that and break down the rest of the game here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Barkley over Elliott. Giants are at home. Barkley's going to be someone who's going to be pretty highly involved in this offense with Beckham out like we've seen last week. He's going to command a tremendous market share. The issue is Tennessee's pretty good against the run, but Barkley should see usage in the passing game, which I like a lot. With Beckham out of there, Shepard is another guy, but the Tennessee Titans actually been pretty good versus slot receivers. So maybe Sterling isn't as good of a play as some people might think. Yeah, just like Barkley here. I think they're going to lean on him. It's pretty much just a cash game play for me. Like if I was maxing out, I'd probably and he was around if he was around a high ownership clip, I'd probably fade or be below the field. But yeah, I don't know. I think at 9,400, he can only pretty much 4x at that price tag. So that's his ceiling's 36. I feel like so. I don't know. Probably it might be higher, but I don't know. I just think that he's pretty much just a cash game play. Even Zeke, I would rather go with all this other running back value like Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, David Johnson in tournaments. I just think that I just trying to explain what I'm trying to say is, like, I definitely have Barkley, but I'd be below the field if his ownership. I don't know. Do you have what his ownership is?
Yeah, I can get that for you right now. We have Barkley projected ownership here at 26 to 30%.
Yeah, so
That's
then you have to make
Fantasy Lab projections.
Yeah, those are So I don't know. I'd probably be with the field then. If he was 40, like, I'd probably be around 30. Should probably be with the field if I was maxing out.
Yeah, and this is the. Go ahead.
No, you can go.
I was gonna chime in on what you were saying because I agree. The price tag, right, is up there now. And to reach his ceiling, you really need a really big production out of him here in a below average matchup. The Titans have been stingy. The thing is, and like, I think this is what you're alluding to. Someone as talented as Saquon Barkley, someone with his skills, can make it happen in just one play. We saw it last week. We've seen it multiple times this year where he gets like in that open field and he's gone. There's just no one's going to catch him. No one. So he has that ability. So yeah, it's not ideal because he's going to need that kind of play to get into to reach his ceiling. That's just the reality of it because of his price tag. So if you're dependent on that, you don't want to take your chances doing so. I think that's what you're alluding to there, because I agree with you. I think I think in cash he makes sense because he has such a high floor that you don't have to worry about it. You know what you're going to get out of him. Even in a bad matchup, he has a high floor. Problem is, in tournaments, you need him at that price tag to really hit his ceiling. And the chances of that happening are not likely this week because of the matchup, the situation, right? But he's the type of player that can get it done with one single play. And that's what makes him, so enticing every week because of that. Because you're watching it on the Red Zone channel, all of a sudden you see Barkley gone for 70 yards, touchdown. That's it. Like, if you're not rostering him that day, it's not going to be a fun night, a fun ending to your Sunday. It's just the bottom line of it. So I agree with you, Bobby. I'll probably be underweight as well on him in tournaments, but I think in cash games, you go ahead and just plug him in here for sure, without a doubt. I think Sterling Shepard, is he someone that 4,400, give it a go here? The usage goes up with him. I'm not excited about his matchup either, but I think if you're going to try to get exposure here to this game, maybe go with him. I think is what probably would be a low ownership. I can get this projection ship, but I don't expect him to be all that popular this week. In fact, yeah, he's at 5 to 8%. So I think he makes for an interesting tournament play if you want exposure to this offense here with Odell, because we know his usage goes up and we know what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, no, the Shepard call is what it is. I'd rather go to a guy like Cobb, but if you really want to play one of these New York guys, Shepard should see a usage bump. The matchup just isn't great. On the Tennessee side, I think Dion Lewis is in a really good spot. But it's pretty much the same thing, like, in terms of all these other running backs. Like, do you really want to roster Dion Lewis? Dion Lewis is probably the best pivot off of Jalen Samuels, but Jalen Samuels is the guy this week. He's the good jock. So I wouldn't even, try it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know. Dion Lewis feels like the best pivot option out of all these low-end guys. But I don't know. If you need him in season-long leagues, I think he's a really good play. The Giants have struggled versus the running back position. I think Dion's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah. All right, we got some actives and inactives here, guys. Before we jump into the next game, I'm going to give those to you. Matthew Stafford is active. Edo Smith is active. LeSean McCoy and Chris Ivory both officially inactive. Thomas inactive. T.Y. Hilton is active. Allen Robinson is active, Bobby. I know you mentioned some love for him. If he was active, he is active. Chris Thompson is active. Josh Doctson is active. We have Joe Flacco is active. Arizona's Chad Williams is inactive. To me, that's very interesting because now it just makes Larry Fitzgerald that much more interesting. And then we have Brady or Trubisky. Brady for me. I don't know if you answered that or because someone answered, but I would go Brady over Trubisky, without a doubt here. I would assume you have the same sentiments, right?
Yeah, I'd go Brady and Cat. I like Trubisky though in tournaments.
Okay. Rodgers, Winston, or Carr? I'm gonna go with Carr.
Rodgers, Winston, or Carr. I like Rodgers, man. I don't know. See this check behind me? Courtesy of Rodgers. So
there you go. And then so you guys cannot get together on Woods or Ertz. No, man. Bobby likes Cooks in that game, so he went with Ertz. He much rather play Cooks. I like Woods a ton here in this week. I think they're both great plays, but it's gonna happen, man. Him and I are not gonna agree on all of them, but we both like both of these players, so it just goes to show I don't think either of them is a terrible play here. Right, Bobby?
If you Yahoo, Cooks is the man this week. I'm telling you, you get that.
No, listen, I like Cooks as well. I just think they're gonna throw it all over the Eagles. You know? Yeah. I really think they're gonna throw it all over the Eagles. Huh?
I like Goff and Cooks. They're just not on the main BK.
I wish that game a lot of good games were off the main slate. You know, you got the Carolina and New Orleans, and then that Rams and Eagles games off the main slate. And then you also had the Chiefs Chargers game. So I digress here. Let's go back to this. And the next game on the board, Miami headed to Minnesota to take on the Vikings here. This game, Bobby, has a 45 over-under. It's worth noting it's jumped up 2 points since it opened. 26.25 implied team totals for Minnesota. 18.75 implied team total for Miami here. You alluded to Dalvin Cook, and you and I are 100% on the same page here. Dalvin Cook is, in my opinion, a priority play. The Dolphins have just been horrendous against the run this season. They cannot stop anyone if their life depended on it, allowing well over 100 rushing yards per game. I believe it's 4.6 yards per carry. Listen, Cook has been playing pretty good. I know we're not seeing that volume that we would love to see out of him, but 18 touches last week, 17 touches the week before, 13 touches in week 12, and he has scored at least 16 DraftKings points in each of those weeks. I really like this game for him. I love this situation, this matchup. I'm not concerned with the some of the changes in their coaching staff here. In the contrary, I think that's going to help him. And I also don't mind the passing game for the Vikings because the Dolphins are banged up here. And this Vikings team is amongst the tops in the NFL when it comes to pass attempts per game. So I think Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, all interesting tournament plays for me, and Kirk Cousins as well. I would be far more bullish on them, though, if I wasn't as high as I am on Dalvin Cook. So it's Cook, my priority play here for the Vikings, and the passing game is a secondary option, too, if you want to get a little different in tournaments. Nothing for Miami from me. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor now because I am done breaking down this game here.
Yeah, Dalvin, Adam Thielen, Steph Diggs. I think they're all in play. The priority is definitely Dalvin. But Xavier Howard's out, so I think the passing game's in play also. I don't know what Diggs' ownership is, but I know him and Thielen's definitely below T.Y. and Amari Cooper, so that's like an easy fade for me in tournaments. Off those two guys, I'd rather go Thielen. And then I don't know where Diggs. Can you pull up Diggs' ownership quick?
Yeah, I have him right here. I was waiting for you to finish, but they have Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs both at 13 to 16%. I have a feeling that Stephon Diggs will probably be in that range, and I think Thielen will probably be anywhere between 5 and 10% because I think a lot of people are going to look at that game log, and it's not pretty over the last couple of weeks. I know he's had multiple letdown games for his standards, of course, but the volume is still significant. The volume is consistent. So I'm not concerned. And then I'm looking at the at Pro Football Focus, and he's expected to see Bobby McCain in coverage here. A 33% advantage rating for Adam Thielen, the highest of any receiver on the main slate. Bobby McCain grades out below average on Pro Football Focus here. So I think it's a really good matchup for him. And I actually have him as a pivot off of Juju Smith-Schuster in my article over at Football Diehards. In tournaments, it just makes so much sense to do something like that because Juju Smith-Schuster, although in a good spot, in a good game environment, going to be very high owned. And Thielen, we know the type of upside and ceiling he has. Like the only reason why I'm not overweight on Thielen this week is just because of how much I really like Dalvin Cook at his price tag. So, but I think Thielen makes a really strong tournament play this week.
Yeah, me too. I think Thielen's a great pivot off Juju. I think he's a great pivot off T.Y. And I think he's a great pivot off of Amari Cooper, who is on another slate, man. I can't stand every slate he's on. It's just not going to play him, so he'll burn me or whatever. But I don't know.
We'll get to that game shortly. It's right around the corner, that game. Because I think that's an interesting game, man. I think that's where a lot of people are going to go if they don't go to New England, Pittsburgh. I think they're going to go to Dallas, Indy.
I think Thielen's
any more thoughts on this Miami Minnesota game? I mean, I think it's all the Vikings and nothing in Miami for both of us, right?
Yeah, maybe you could run it back with Kenny Stills.
That would be the only guy. I agree. That would be the only guy you can consider here. All right, this next game I think is going to be a quick breakdown, and we'll just breeze right through it. The Redskins at Jacksonville taking on the Jaguars. 36.5 over under here. 14.5 implied team total for the Redskins. 22 implied team totals for the Jaguars. Listen, guys, for me it's very simple. It's all of Leonard Fournette. And you could correlate him if you want to pay up for defense with the Jaguars defense in a phenomenal spot here. But I think Fournette is such a strong tournament play. The Redskins have been horrendous against running backs, especially as of late. If you look at the overall numbers for the season, you're not going to think so. But since week 9, here are the numbers. 148 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. 68 rushing yards. That was against the Bucs, who do not have a run game. 132 rushing yards, 128 rushing yards, and a touchdown. 134 rushing yards and a touchdown. 229 rushing yards and a touchdown. This is what they've allowed to running backs in recent weeks, guys. Great matchup here for Fournette, who's getting the rock. Good game environment, good game script. I don't see a scenario, or I don't see many scenarios where he really lets us down here. And I think at 7,500, it's a good price. And this is why I'm fading both Zeke Elliott and Barkley in tournaments, because you got guys like Fournette, guys like Cook, guys like Mixon, even though he's going to be popular, lower priced, in good spots, and guys that are good should see the volume. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Fournette here get 20 carries. We've seen it, aside from last week, he had 24, 28 that carries, 18 and 14 against Tennessee. Tennessee is a strong run defense, like we alluded to earlier. So he did struggle there, but prior to that, 95, 53 rushing yards, at least 1 touchdown in every game, and 2 games with multiple touchdowns here, with over 22 DraftKings points in each of those contests. I really like Fournette a ton this week. Feel free to chime in on that and any other thoughts on this game, because aside from that, I really have nothing else here.
Fournette and Jags D, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, Vernon Davis on the other side is cash game lock, pretty much around that.
Yeah. So Old Man Davis is definitely a consideration for cash here. I agree. I missed that. Good call there. He's going to get the volume, and the Jaguars are. That's where you get them. That's their weakest point. They're the tight end position. So agree with that 100% there, Bobby. Good call. On to the next game, guys. Dallas at Indy. This game, I believe, has the second highest over-under on the slate, 46.5 here. 24.75 implied team total for the Colts. 21.75 implied team total for the Cowboys. The floor is yours, my man. Go ahead and break this one down.
Colts. Obviously, T.Y. and Ebron are going to see a ton of targets. Byron Jones is going to be on T.Y. T.Y. is still at home on the fast track, so you could definitely play T.Y. I'm kind of staying away. I think he's a fade for me, which is pretty much Ty has been my guy that I've kind of hit all year. So hopefully I get off on at the right point. Ebron, I think, is a good play at his price tag. A lot of value in that area too, as well. Well, not value, but players in that area you can roster as well. Like the Dallas defense at 2,300 a ton. I think that's a good buy as a low value defense in a tough spot, but I think they can make value on that price tag. And on the Cowboys side, Michael Gallup, I think, is a great stack with Dak. Has a really high air yards projection. Good buy low guy at 3,600. Zeke is definitely in play just because of the usage, although Zach Martin is out. He's a guy who hasn't missed a game. So it's going to be interesting how that kind of affects the O-line and affects Zeke. Colts, I think the Colts have been pretty stout versus the run, correct?
Colts have been okay against the run. They're like that bend but don't break defense. Like they don't allow a ton of yardage, but they have been a little bit generous in recent weeks, I believe, in the touchdown department. Yeah. So since coming off the bye in week 9, they've allowed 4 rushing touchdowns in 5 games. The problem is they're not allowing a ton of yardage. They've only allowed over 100 rushing yards in 2 games this season. They do have a ton, though, of 90-plus rushing yard game allowed. They just don't. They bend, but they don't break for some reason.
Yeah. So we should talk Amari Cooper.
Listen, I've been talking to Amari Cooper pretty much every week. I like him. My only thing with him this week, man, is 2 things. Number one, the ownership is going to be pretty significant. You know, I think he's going to be very popular here.
He's very
correct. And then number 2 is his price, you know, has gone up a pretty good amount here. He's 7,500. You know, last week at 6,600, we talked about this, how I liked him at that price, but it was already getting to the point where you wish he was a couple hundred less. Now, 7,500 this week, man, and he gets Quincy Wilson, which grades out as an average corner. It's not like it's a pushover corner here. I don't know, man. The price to me, I just, you know, I'd rather pay for Edelman in a better game environment here. I know Cooper, we've seen his upside. I'm a big Cooper fan myself. I've always liked him, even back from his Oakland day. I just didn't think they utilized him properly. So, yeah, I'm always going to think he's in play. I'm always, you know, going to like him. But price and you know, ownership is kind of dictating my decision on fading him. I'm not thrilled about that because I do think he can have a big game here. And we know the usage is there, and he clearly has a good rapport here with Dak Prescott, but not someone I'm prioritizing this week for sure, Bobby. I do like him, though. I do think he's in play. In fact, I like Prescott and him as you know, if I was running a ton of lineups this week, they'd definitely be in my player pool and definitely be a stack I target this week. Just in a good spot, but you know, it's price is really making my decision tougher here for this. And then Zeke, I'm with you, man. I think Zeke's in the good play. The usage is there, but another one that, you know, now is 9K. You really need, you know, a huge game out of him to pay off that salary. And when you, again, I alluded to earlier, when you have guys like Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Fournette, all guys in good spots, much cheaper, that can get you that, you know, 20 to 30, you know, DraftKings points. I'm gonna kind of just shift to that direction. From the Colts side, T.Y. Hilton, I'm fading like you. I just don't think this is a spot for him. Byron Jones has been great. I know Jones might see, you know, move around from Hilton to Eric Ebron, from my understanding and from what I've read. But and Hilton certainly has that breakaway speed to make a big play. But just a matchup I don't like for him. We've seen him struggle against good corners before. Jalen Ramsey has kind of tamed him both times this year when they've seen each other. So it's not like Hilton is one of those receivers that cannot be, you know, slowed down. He can. And this is one of those weeks where he does have a really tough matchup. So don't mind if you want to go there, but I'm not going to go there. Eric Ebron, to me, would be the guy I prioritize on the Colts offense if you're running an Andrew Luck stack. I like Luck. I think, you know, that this secondary can be exploited, but the problem is the pass rush is so strong here for the Cowboys that it really might make things harder on, Luck. I think someone like Hines could be interesting because I do think that they're going to try to get the ball out of Luck's hands quickly here. And he can see a lot of dump offs. The usage has not been at all there for him, but targets 5 and 9 in the last 2 games, man. That's eye popping. No, not eye popping, but that's significant. And if you look at this, if you project how this game can play out, and you're trying to avoid this pass rush for the Cowboys, you automatically think dump offs here. So I'm not going to be rostering Hines, but I think he's someone that could come out this week as someone who no one was really talking about and had a solid performance considering what to expect from this game. So this is one of those games I don't have a ton from. I do have a lot of secondary plays. Like, Cooper's a secondary play for me. Eric Ebron is a secondary play for me. But no one here I'm prioritizing at all. Just because, I don't know. And I do like the Cowboys defense, like you mentioned. I think that's a great call here. So, yeah, that's my thoughts here. Huh?
I think the Hines call is sharp.
Yeah, man, because when you look at what to expect, if they're trying to avoid that pass rush, I think that's the way that they're going to be able to do it, just dump it off. And that's why Ebron down in the middle of the field is also interesting because I think he's going to get a lot of those, short routes and just see the volume he's been getting. So that would be the way I approach this game. Seattle at San Francisco, guys. This game, it's 44.5 over under, 24 implied team total for the Seahawks, 20.5 implied team total for the 49ers here. It's a weird game because I feel like there's going to be some fantasy goodness out of this one, but it's tough to pinpoint here. Russell Wilson, 6,700 to me is a little too pricey to play, but I think he does have a significant floor and a pretty nice ceiling in this matchup. He did throw 4 touchdown passes against this unit, but he only attempted 17 passes that game. So basically was throwing a touchdown pass every 4 passes. Don't think that that's going to happen again. Carson in a good spot against the Niners run defense that does tend to struggle here. And, he's been getting the rock, man. He's been getting the rock 17, 16, then 13 against this same unit. But did catch 3 passes in that game, and then 22. And these are rush attempts here on a week-to-week basis in the last 4 games. 5,600 to me is very interesting. Matt Breida is listed as questionable, is expected to play, so that would automatically rule out anyone that had interest in Jeff Wilson. I just won't go there this week, and it just clouds up that backfield. The guy that really stands out to me though in this game, Bobby, is Tyler Lockett. I don't know how to treat him though because he's been pretty touchdown dependent, but the volume has been steady all season long. It's not high, but it's steady, and I like to see that. This is a good matchup for him. 6,200. I don't think anyone's going to go there, and he also offers, in my opinion, some nice upside. So he's kind of the guy I'm trying to figure out in this game. Would love to hear your thoughts on him and anyone else in this game here.
Yeah, I like Lockett, but you kind of gave a good breakdown of like what he is. Baldwin's probably going to be back this week, so I kind of think that muddies up the situation. Kyle Shanahan at home, I think, is something we need to definitely take more into consideration. Offense is just plays better at home. Kyle Shanahan can communicate more with Nick Mullins because it's not as loud. Maybe a guy like Goodwin in tournaments. I know a lot of people went to Kittle last week, or people like Pettis. I wouldn't put too much stock in this game. It's more like just a tournament type game and from the side, but I don't know. That's pretty much all I have.
Yeah, and it's worth keeping an eye here on Dante Pettis. He's listed as questionable, but is expected to play. He's been very, very good as of late. I know a lot of his production is based on the touchdowns, 1, 2, 1. Those are touchdowns, but the targets have been pretty good since week 10, 6, 7, 7, 7. I think he and Cobb make for good pivot plays off of Shepard. If you want to stay in that price range, I think there's a lot of that, 44 to 5K guys like we've talked about already here that are pretty good spots. So I think Pettis is very interesting here in this contest. All right, let's move on to the last and final game, the one we've all been waiting for here, guys, and that is the New England Patriots heading over to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. This game has a 54 over-under. It has jumped up 2 points since it opened. 28.25 implied team total here for the Patriots. 25.75 implied team total here for the Steelers. Bobby, I'm going to give this one to you. Go ahead, break it down, and then I'll chime in once you are done, sir.
Yeah, so Tom Brady's like cash game, pretty much the cash game guy at the quarterback position. Ben's also going to be pretty highly owned in cash. I like stacking Brady with Edelman. I just think that it provides a really high floor versus the zone defense that Pittsburgh likes to play. A lot of coverage with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, they've been doing this for like the last decade, so it's getting kind of redundant. They cover Edelman with linebackers, and it's just not really conducive to success when trying to cover Julian Edelman. You probably want to put a slot corner on him, but their slot corner's kind of been all over the place. They've been moving him to the outside. I don't know. It's kind of why Keenan Allen just destroyed Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago on Monday night. They kept putting a linebacker on him, and if they do that to Edelman, he's going to just absolutely torch this team. They do it all the time to Edelman, so he's probably going to torch this team. Jalen Samuels is pretty much a lock for me in cash just because of how the Patriots will probably defend Juju and Antonio Brown. I think we've seen with the Minnesota game that Dalvin Cook had a really nice game because Belichick elected to double both Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. And so they just allowed Dalvin to kind of eat over the middle. So, and like underneath, not over the middle, and he'll also see one of these slow Patriots linebackers that can be they can be exploited in coverage. So I like Jalen Samuels a ton in all formats. I think he's very good chalk. A guy who's going to go very under-owned is James White, just because you have Rex Burkhead back. His snaps have gone down. You have Sony Michel there as well, but I think this is a James White game. Like, it's always been Patriots have always used the pass-catching running back to kind of get at this Pittsburgh zone defense that they like to play, and I think James White is in a really good spot at low ownership. You should probably have be overweight to him in tournaments. I think he's only projected like 7% or something. Maybe Fantasy Labs has him different, but I think a couple other sites had him pretty low.
Who's that? James White?
Yeah.
Labs has him at 9 to 12%.
Yeah, 9 to 12 is low, man. Like, be overweight. So, yeah, I like White. But I think White's also the best pivot off Samuels, but I just like playing both of them in the same lineup.
It looks like he's going to be around 10%, so you know.
What?
So it's perfect. It looks like he's going to be around 10% because I have one week season up as well, and they have him at 10% or 9.87.
Yeah. So I like James White a ton. On the Pittsburgh side with the receivers, like Antonio Brown, he'd probably be the guy I'd go to in tournaments over Juju because I think Juju is going to be like probably the most highly owned receiver or up there, pretty close. Juju's a beast. Like, I think Belichick's going to realize that and try to take him away. Obviously, AB is AB, but Juju's like really coming up on like throughout the ranks of like one of the better receivers in the NFL. So I think you really have to watch Juju. And the guy that I really want to have on Pittsburgh outside of Jalen Samuels, probably more than Juju and AB, is Vance McDonald. I just think he's going to come very low owned, and he's probably going to get in the end zone. Probably going to see a good number of targets versus a Patriots pass defense versus tight ends that's been pretty awful all year. I really love Vance this week. So it's pretty much what I got.
Yeah, and pretty much you and I are on the same page here. Look, I agree with you, and I'll start with the receivers here for the Steelers. Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown, both in great spots. I I know Juju Smith-Schuster has just been lights out as of late, but Antonio Brown's not really that far behind him. And the usage, a lot of people, I've heard some people say, oh, the torch is being passed or whatnot. Not necessarily. I mean, 13, 13, 13, 7. Those are Antonio Brown's numbers. 7 was against the Raiders. That's where Juju Smith-Schuster just went bonkers. So it is what it is. But at the end of the day, the volume is still there. It's still Antonio Brown. I know he's pricier, and like you said, it just makes so much sense to pivot up to Brown in this same game, in the same game environment from Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is going to be far less owned. I'm putting up here the ownership projection. So, all right, so Juju Smith-Schuster at up to 25%, Brown at 20. That's on Fantasy Lab, and now I'm going to pull up the 1 week season, but. As I do that, I think they're both in great spots here. I think this is a situation where either of them can really go off. It's just a matter of guessing them right here. Okay, so you see like Juju Smith-Schuster, 37.8% on 1 week season. Antonio Brown, 17%. So pretty much half the ownership from Juju Smith-Schuster. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it like that, this weekend. Good spot for him. So I definitely do like him here. I like them both a ton. I think Big Ben is fine. I know his price tag is a bit up there, but I think he's fine. You know how he plays much better at home. This is a good matchup, a good game environment. I think they're gonna sling it here. I definitely see them slinging it. They especially with Connor likely out. From my understanding, I don't think it's official yet, but doesn't look like he's going to play. So he's listed as doubtful officially, hasn't been able to practice. So again, I'm with you. Jalen Samuels to me is a very strong play in all formats because I don't think he's going to be all that popular, Bobby. I don't think he's going to be extreme chalk. As I think a lot of people are going to be playing that a mix in and things like that. And I'm looking at Jalen Samuels and he's around 14-15%. So to me, that's not uber chalk. So I like him a ton. I like him a ton. It is worth noting, Fantasy Labs has him projected a little bit higher. They haven't projected at 26-30. I don't think it's going to be that high this week for Jalen Samuels. I think he's a strong play, a very strong play. In fact, I think he's probably the strongest play on this offense, and that says a lot because I think this offense is in a great spot here. And on the other side, man, I love Tom Brady this week. I think he's such a strong play. It makes so much sense here to really consider him this week. And to me, it's a really good matchup for him as well on the road. I like him with Julian Edelman. I like him with Gronkowski. Listen, Gronkowski has such a strong history here against this unit, this defense. Obviously, I know it's not the same defense it was, and there's been a lot of changes here, but he has really, really torched them in his career. I believe he's had all but one game here, and I'm putting up the numbers here. All but one game of over 90 yards here against them. Okay, so I have it here. In 6 games, all right, he has 8 touchdowns, over 90 receiving yards in all but one of those games. So he has torched this defense, all right? And at 5,800, I really like him. I think he's probably the top tight end play on the board by a large amount here. And, he's trending in the right direction. He's now scored a touchdown in 2 of his last 3 games and trending in the right direction, coming off a really big performance against the Dolphins. So Gronk, to me, chalk or not, is probably the top play on the board for tight end. Like him a ton. If I'm running a Brady stack, I wouldn't mind going with Edelman or Gronk. Prioritize Gronk for me, but both in really good spots here. I'm with you. James White in a good game environment, going to go on their own. There's upside if you want exposure to this game at lower ownership. I think he makes the most sense here. That's it for me, Bobby. I mean, this game is obviously the best game on the board. This game is the one you want to roll with here. So with that, let's give our final thoughts here and get going, because I know you probably have to do a lot of adjustments, as do I, with some of the stuff that was going on earlier with some of this news and the inactives. So go ahead and give us your thoughts, your final thoughts, and anything else you want to say to the listeners here?
Yeah, I honestly think James White and probably Jalen Samuels are going to be staples in lineups. And then I think everyone's going to stack this Pittsburgh New England game, trying to find like those stacks in that game that are going to be low owned, like James White and Brady, or like Josh Gordon and Brady, or like Roethlisberger and Vance, or running those first two back with Vance. I think those are the ways to go with stacks in that game. And I look other places to kind of like have the majority of my, like going to that Green Bay Bears game. I just really like Rodgers. Like just pivots off that. Like I think you can leverage the recency bias in that game for tournaments, like Trubisky as well. So I don't know. Pretty much my thoughts. Good luck everyone this week. Hope you guys have a great week. Hope we help these out.
Yeah, and I have one more question. Is Pettis going to play today? It looks like he's trending in the right direction to play, guys. We probably won't know that until after lock. So if it's a lock-dependent thing, make sure you have a pivot play in that price range if you're going to take your chances on Pettis. All right, guys. Like Bobby said, good luck to everyone this week. This is one of those odd football weekends. A lot of low totals, a lot of bad games on the board here. A lot of tougher matchups for some of the higher price guys, at least in the running back position. So just tread carefully. Good luck to everyone this week. Make sure you check out footballdiehards.com. Every week we have a bunch of things going on there, lots of content. So go ahead, go there. We'll be on Thursday at 7 p.m. as usual. Make sure to go tune in at that time on Thursday. Good luck to everyone this weekend, and we will see you next week.